Hello friends, how are you all? I hope you all are doing fine and I'm Priyabrat. I welcome you to a new video which is on AWK, okay, AWK. So awk is a very widely used and popular programming language in the field of bioinformatics, and basically people call this as a one-liner. Okay, compared to the traditional programming like Python and Perl, where to do a simple thing you will have to write 10 lines or 20 lines of code. But awk is such a powerful program which using simple 1 2 lines of the code you can do lot many things. So that's where the in the field of bioinformatics awk is widely used, and I would recommend that's why to definitely gain this skill, and I will be covering very basics, but you can go further read further to gain enhance your knowledge further. But the foundation what you will gain through this video will be sufficient for you to learn the more advanced concept. Okay, so what can actually awk does? Okay, we can do using awk. So let's take this as an example, where we have the genes and their location, like which chromosome belong and the start and which strand they belong. So now let's say if you want to find the length of each gene, so what you have to do, let's say this is the end minus start you will be doing, right? Okay, so basically column 3 minus column 2. So now if you want to do this in Python, or just imagine in like any Perl, so you'll have to write some more number of definitely more than more line of codes, right? But using awk, it would be very easy, just one line. Same way, let's say I want to check like which are the genes, any genes which is located on chromosome 10, find its length. So basically what I have to do, I have to loop over each of these line and check where chromosome 10 is present, and once that chromosome 10 is present, on that I have to subtract this gene, let's say end minus start, like that. So let's say I'll put another complexity, it should be chromosome 10 and it should be positive strand. Okay, so then only on those record you do the some analysis, let's say this minus that, like that. So these all things within single or 2 3 lines of code we can you will be able to achieve this. So that's the beauty and powerfulness of awk programming language. Okay, so now let's see how awk actually works. Basically what it does, awk takes our input data and it applies some rules, like so let's say test number 1, where it applies some conditions, and if that condition is passed, then it will apply, you can use some action like what you want to do. Okay, so in this example, if chromosome number is 10, then end minus start. So the action is like checking whether the first column contains chromosome number 10. Okay, so that is the test we are doing, and once the test is satisfied, what action you are doing, so action is like dollar with the third column minus second column that you want to print it out. Okay, so that's where you can have multiple rules as well, like test 2, action 2, like that, and whatever that so based on that output will be decided. So it takes your input and it applies some rules, and rule consists of two part, the condition, and whoever passes the condition, based on that what action you want to apply. Okay, so these two are a pair, for every condition you will have an action. Okay, and based on that your output will be decided. Okay, so now let's see how awk takes your input data. So basically let's say this is our data set. What awk will do, awk will first split our input into different records, and it will be, the record will be decided by a record separator or the variable called rs. By default the rs is, or the record separator is equal to /n, that is the new line character. So that's why when you give a new input file, it will split our input into different lines, because it will split based on the new line character. So in this example, this will be the first record, second record, third, fourth, like that. Okay, so every line will be now one record. So in the next step what it does, it will loop over each of these record. So now it takes every record, for every record it will first then split the record into different fields, and it will be decided by another parameter which is called field separator, or fs. By default it represents one or more white space character, that means one or more space as well as tab, everything it will be considered as it will be removed, and based on that the data will be split, each record will be split into different field. This is how it will do. First it will take your input, split into record, for every record it will take, and then it will split into different fields, and then it will check the conditions, and based on the conditions, if it is passed, then it will apply that action to those record which passes that condition. Okay, so let's take further example. This example, you see, this is the first record, this will be the second record, like that, and then it will be the first field 2 3 like that, and where it will store that information. Okay, by default that entire record, that entire record will be stored in a variable called $0, and the field information is stored in a variable called $1 2 3 like that. That means first field in $1, second field in $2, third field on $3 like that, but the entire record will be stored in a variable called $0. And there is a variable called, there is a parameter called nf that will define number of fields. Okay, after it splits, right? So in this example, nf will be how much? 5, right? 1 2 3 4 5 fields. So this is a symmetric data, that's why you will have 5 columns in everything. But let's say you are parsing some text, so in that case, first line will have, let's say 10 fields, second line can have, let's say 20 fields, like that. So it's not mandatory that all the files should have, same number of fields. So it can have any number of fields, so it doesn't matter, because awk will treat each record separately, because there is no association between these two. So basically for first record it will do the action, then it will move to the next line, next record, then it will move to the third record, and then it passes all the record and it applies that rules kind of thing. Okay, so we'll see now one by one. Okay, so the syntax is very simple. You start with awk, then very important, like you put single quote, and within the single quote you have to write the rules. A rule has two parts, as I said, the test and the action, and an action block always starts within a curly bracket. Okay, so the test is like, I'll show you, like test we can give like second column greater than 3, like the lot of conditions we can give, but the action block should be within the curly bracket, and the entire rules will be between the single quote, and then finally you provide the input file. Now, as I state, like the the test, if you don't specify this condition, okay, by default that means the answer is true, that means pass, like, because since you are not doing any condition, that means all the record will pass the test kind of thing. Okay, so that's why the default action is pass. And then if you don't specify, let's say you have done some conditions, you have given the condition, but you have not specified any action, so that means by default action means is the print, so it will print the record itself. Okay, that is the default action, and the default test is equal to pass, always pass the results. Okay, so now let's do some example. You see, so for example in this case, you see only suppose you see there is a curly bracket, right? So that means this is the action block, and there is no test here, so that means pass, every record is pass, and then you are doing some action. So in this case I am printing $1 means I am printing the first field of every record. Okay, similarly $5 means fifth field of every record will pass. Okay, so basically awk will, since you have not given any conditions, right, so all the record will pass, so for every line these rules will be applied. Okay, so let's do some practical. Here is my file, so I'll show you the data, same one. So the first column, just remember chromosome, start, and strand, and the gene name. Okay, so now if I want to do, so I'll start with awk, then I give single quote, then this is my input file. So this is the syntax. So now I can, first I have to give some condition, but for now I'll just not giving any condition, and now I have to give some action, right? So action block will start with curly bracket, and by I say print $0. $0 means what? I'm just printing the entire record. Okay, you see I have printed the entire record, but now as I said, like the record will be split into different this thing, and now we'll store the field. This is $1, $2, $3, $4, 5, like that. So let's print $1, so it will print as the first chromosome information, and $2 will print as the start, and $3 will print as the end information. $4 will be the which strand they belong, and $5 will contain the gene's name. Okay, so like that $6, 7, like that it will go, and 10, 11, like that you can continue. So it doesn't matter how many are there. And as I said, if you can print simply nf, so it will print number of field. So you see in all our this data, since it is 5, right, so it has all the number of field is equal to 5. Okay, So okay, so this way you can print. The advantage is like if I give a file and if you want to print any particular column, so basically you can split. You can I want $1, 2, 3 lakhs. So how will you do? So the syntax is you type awk. So let's say I want first and the chromosome and gene information. So I'll write print $1. Then I give space, and space is a string, right? So that's why a string in awk you have to give a write in double quote, and then you write $5. Okay, and then give the input, so the data. So you see chromosome 1 and the gene name. And if you want to also write the strand information and just put space and in double quote, then you write strand information. See, okay. So now I don't want space, so you can give tab delimiter as well. Tab. I'll just pipe it to head just to show you only few information. So you see, right, you have now chromosome tab, then you have this thing and that thing. Okay, so now that way you can use multiple column. So now a task for you is like, if this is the input file, if I want you to arrange the columns, okay, that is the task, let's say in the reverse order. Okay, I'll pause for a minute. You can pause your video and then you can try yourself, and then you can continue to get the results. So ideally your code should look like this: awk, then the action block, and you just simply write print 5, then tab 4, 3, 2, 1, like that. So this is very simple way to rearrange the column. This is one use case. If you write Python and all, it will take a lot of time for you, like read the file, then loop over and so many things. But within a single line, we would be able to do it. Okay. So now so far we have seen only the action. So now we will apply both test and action. Okay, so now let's do this conditions kind of thing. So print only the chromosome 1 line. Okay, so how I'll do, so awk, then double single quote, then action block. So now the condition is, now you will put a condition. So let's say $1 double equal to, I'm checking double equal to, then the string is what, chr1. So this is my test. I'm checking first column of every record which is matching with chromosome 1, and then based on that the action is, let's say, print $0. Okay, so okay, sorry, and you have to specify the file input. So you see only 3 lines I got it. Okay, so if you want to just print the gene name, so you simply have to say $5. So these are the genes which belongs to chromosome 1, like that. Okay, and let's say you want to apply condition also in numeric condition. Let's say any where let's say $2 is less than, let's say we can give a condition like that, $2 less than, let's say, 12,000, any like that. Okay, just randomly I'm putting. So these are the genes which I'm just printing $0 so that you can see the entire line. Okay, so you can see $2 on second column I have put a condition less than 12,000. So now if I put multiple condition, let's say $1 equal, let's say $4 equal to, let's say, positive strand only. Okay, and you put a AND condition ampersand. So you see only positive strand gene. Oh, sorry, this is all are positive only. Let's say $1 only. I put chr1. So let's two condition, chromosome 1 and 12,000. So you will see only one gene got. Okay, so that way you can use and for OR you can use this pipe option, double pipe. So that is an OR condition, and or not. So same you can use to apply the test. So now you see this is the test you are applying, and then based on that you are applying some action. Okay, this is the test, and based on that you are applying some action. So that's why you have some test block and the action block. I have just color coded it so that you can see the difference. Like you can string comparison, you can give equal to arithmetic, and you can use ampersand like that. And also you can give a regular expression. Okay, so let's give a regular expression kind of thing. So we can check any line, any. So in this line I want to check empty hyphen. So basically this is the condition, that means every record will be checked for presence of this word. Okay, and so you see it will give me 3 lines. Okay, So we can particularly specify that like this as well. $5 means on the fifth column I want to apply regex. Okay, so then I want to say like linc, so it will give me all link gene. So you can use these kind of conditions as well, not only numeric one, but we can also give this kind of conditions as well. Okay, so now you see how conditions and based on that actions we are applying. Okay, so let's take an example. Okay, so now very interesting thing what we'll see, we'll use these two more special variable called nr and nf. Nf we have seen, nf will give you the number of fields in each record, while nr will give you the current record number. Okay, this is very important. If you, for example, I'll just show you. Okay, so let's say awk. Okay, and there is no test, only action like print n r, then space, then $0 array, and let's say you give the file, just showing you head. So you see this is the first line, this is the second line, 3. So 1 is equal to the record number 1, then print the entire line, record number 2, 3, 4, like that. Okay, and so let's say this will be useful here in this example. So which line have the link genes if I want? So what I can say that this is the conditions I am applying. What conditions? My fifth column contain the word link, and instead of print 0 I will print simply nr. So basically you see line number 16th, line number 18th, line number 27. So these are the 3 lines. So just I had to play with the action item. Instead of printing the entire line, I can use this nr variable to just see the get the line number as well. This is what I have done over here. Print nf, print nr, like that. Okay, yeah, this is what the example in a print assignment, like print line number of, let's say, chromosome M genes. Okay, so you can put chromosome M, then print nr will give you the line which is matching. Oh, this is another interesting example. Let's say this is our data and you want a given range like these 3 lines. So how can you give using nr variable? So you can start with like this. Okay, now the condition will be nr, the record number, nr is the current record number, greater than 2, and nr greater than, let's say, 6, sorry, less than 6. This is my condition, and if the condition is satisfied, then I will be printing that record, and the file is, so now you see I am getting now these 3 lines. So that way you can top 5 lines, or if you want some few number of lines, in a range of lines you can fetch easily using the nr variable. Okay, so this is the example, third line, third, fourth, fifth line, so you can give this condition. Okay, so now so far what we have seen, like we saw the awk syntax, like we had only we have one rule. But before that, there is another concept called that we will be learning, that is called begin and end block. So basically the syntax will now change. So you can have one begin block, and then you can have multiple rules, then you can have one end block. So what does it means? Like whenever awk will start reading your input data, before that it will first do execute all the statement in the begin block, and then it will process your record into, then that now dividing your data into different records, record to splits, then applying the rules, and once everything is done, finally it will do the end block, like that. So you can have both begin and end, or you can have only begin block, you can have only end block, or you cannot, it's like you can keep that empty as well. So just to an example, I'll just show you. Let's say awk. Okay, so again single quote you give, then as a syntax is begin block, then you can have a middle block, and you can have an end block. Okay, so let's say I'm simply saying print. Okay, again I'm giving double quote start, then let's say print the gene name I want, $5, and then I say let's say end, end. So you, okay, I have to give the file as well, right? So you see that I start start, this is the begin block, then all the execution happened, then finally it entered into the end block. So this is useful if you want to insert some header. Okay, for example, in this my data we do not have header, right? So I can insert a header then do all this kind of thing. So let's take an example. Yeah, this is the example, like add a header. So what I can do, like I can let's say awk, let's say I want chromosome and a gene. Okay, then $5, right? So you see what I'm putting head just to show few lines only. So chromosome. So now I want to add a header here. So what I can do, so before doing all this thing, I'll insert a begin block. Okay, so there I will write print, okay, in start, then space, then chr space g. Okay, so now you see that I got the column header, because before doing processing each record, awk first entered here and it did that action. So first I did the action equal to, let's say this is what the action, that means printing this character. Then it, for every record it did this one, and then so let's say we can also do the same thing. Now we can apply an action over here. So this is the action block, right? And there was no pattern, condition. So here let's say I put empty, mitochondrial gene. So you see only the mitochondrial gene came. Okay, so this is what, so you can see there is a begin block, and then this is the rule where we are applying both condition as well as the action together. Okay, so okay, so now we move to a very other important concept that is called a variable. So now let's say hypothetically I want to calculate how many genes are there in the chromosome 1. Okay, how will I do it? So basically what I have to do, I have to loop over each line and just check if chromosome first column, equal to chromosome 1 or not. If yes, then increment the count. Store, like first time it encounters count equal to 1, second time it encounters count 2, 3, like that. So there what we can use, we can define a variable dynamically, we can create. So far we have seen $0, 1, 2, 3, that is the system variable, but now this is our custom variable. So, and no need to define, like the way x equal to 2 initialize, so do not need to, because if you by default the value is equal to 0 if value is not defined, and if it is string consideration, it will be blank. So in this example, what let's do one thing, I'll show you. So our objective is count how many genes in there in chromosome 1. So first let's find out the chromosome 1. Okay, so this is the syntax. First let's put an action block, print $0, and now action is equal to $1 equal to chr1. So this is my condition, and now you see, so now these are the 3 lines that satisfy. Okay, so now inside this right, this the condition is there. So here I will declare a variable count equal to count plus 1. So what will happen when the first line comes? Okay, let's say this line comes. Okay, wait. So I'll just simply print count. You will see 1, 2, 3. Okay, anyways. So when this line comes, okay, so that means okay, let me explain. So when you are checking the condition, let's say this satisfied the condition, so it entered into the condition is satisfied. So now action will be applied, count equal to count plus 1, but count was not defined, so by default it will be 0. 0 plus 1 becomes count, so now count becomes 1. Okay, so that's why when I say print count, so I'll do like this. Okay, first count, then I'll put some like this, then I'll put $0 just to show you. So this is the first you know uh, count 1, then count 2, count 3. Okay, so now what I can do, instead of printing this, I can say print $0, and I'll insert an end block, right? Because at the end I want to print let's say print total genes, total genes. You give some space, then you write what count. See, total genes equal to 3. Okay, so if it is not clear little bit, so you can see, right? Otherwise I'm just putting into one line. Okay, okay, print string, you have to put like total. Okay, just putting hash. Okay, and count you do not have to put in a double quote because that's a variable. Okay, so if I just run it, uh, so now you see total 3, number of genes equal to 3. Okay, very simple, right? So that way, you can store a variable without even declaring it. Okay. And as I said, you do not have to worry about whether it's an integer or it's a float. Automatically awk take care of. Okay, and we do not and no need to give dollar to access any variable. Directly you can use count to print. Okay, so now let's say very huge case. If you want to take an average of, okay, for example, it doesn't make sense biologically. Let's say you want to take some, total, this is a number, and if you want to take a sum of it. Okay, how will you do? Very simple. Okay, so now this is my action block, right? So if I just simply print 2, it will give the file, right? So this is my second column, and here what I'll do, I'll create a variable called sum equal to sum plus $2. Okay, and then after this action, so I'll put and introduce an end block, and in the end I will print sum. So now this is the sum of the second column. And if I want to do the average as well, right? So I can, what I can do, so this is my sum. Now I say count equal to count plus 1, and then I will just divide print by count. This is my average of the second column. So that's the beauty of creating a variable and doing it. So if this is very difficult in doing in Python, you will it, but in a single line we could achieve it. Okay. Cool. Okay. So next, I want to talk about an important concept variable called ORS and OFS. So the way RS will, you can the input record separator. We have ORS, that is output record separator. By default, it is space. Sorry, it's new line character, and OFS is output field separator, which is by default. Let's say it is the space character. Okay. So we can use this to change the output format. So for example, now let's say if you want to convert this TSV file to CSV format, comma separated. So basically you just have to tell that my output field separator, you give comma, but you have to give in the begin of this thing. Okay. So now if I say awk, okay, let's say this is my file, and just if I type print $0, so you see this is tab separated is coming. Okay, and I'm just showing head, and now let's say I want to change the OFS, right, means output filter separator. So I have to give a begin block, and here I'm saying OFS equal to, let's say, comma. But you will see that still it will a problem is like, even if I have specified OF is equal to comma output field separator, but it did not work. The reason being, you are printing $0. So $0 is calculated, see, $0 stores the entire record, right? And there is no change in record. Okay, means you did not do anything. You just said ki bhai, I want an output field separator equal to $0, but $0 did not change. But the moment you change any single value, for example, in this case, what I will be doing, $1 equal to $1, just means basically this is a telling awk that, see, the $1 got changed. So now you have to recompute the $0. So in this case, now what will happen? So in this case, $0 did not change because you did not do any changes to your data. So for awk, there is no change in data, so it will not recompute $0. But here, the moment you say $1 equal to $1, actually we did not change any value, but indirectly we tricked awk, telling that, see, our $1 got changed. So since $1 got changed, so $0 will automatically recompute, and it will $0 got changed. And while recomputing, it used the comma field separator to join $1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it a comma separate join, and it created the $0. So that's where you can easily use this OFS in combination with changing one field. We can convert a TSV file to a comma separated file. So now let's play with ORS, that means output record separator. So let's say in this example the task is you comma separated genes. Okay, so how will you do? So basically the task is like, you take this file and give me this gene comma separated. How will you do it? Okay, So basically what I have to do first, let's get that gene line, sorry, print $5, right? Print $5, and then simply I have to tell that please change my ORS, output record separator, is equal to comma. So now you see it's very in a single line we have now all gene comma separated. So let's say you want only the genes of chromosome 11, only the comma separated of that. So basically simply we have to apply a condition here. So what condition? $1 equal to CHR11. So now you see that we got the 2 comma separated genes. But yeah, so there will be at the end there is a comma is there. So that's the problem of this thing, because your record separate is with comma is there. But this can be avoided using printf. I'll talk about in some next video advanced concept like printf, using printf. But using that we can avoid this last comma as well. Okay, so yeah, what about this now? Okay, so we talked about changing OFS, we talked about ORS. Okay, so now we'll little bit more advanced. So far we are playing with only one rule, right? So now I'll show you how can you apply multiple rules. Okay, so in this example what we are doing, we are checking if the first column equal to chromosome 1, this is the conditions, then the action is equal to I have to write that this gene is in chromosome 1. Then the second rule will be applied, that means checking first column is chromosome 11 or not, and based on that if it is satisfied then we are doing this print. Okay, so yeah, let's do this, and remember that each rule should be in a separate line. Okay, if you are writing multiple rules. And once again I forgot to mention this, that means every rule and its corresponding test should be the first bracket should be in the same line as well. Oh, anyways, I'll see talk about in few slide later on, but yeah, so let's do one thing. So I want to apply the first rule. Okay, let me copy, that would be easy, right? So that, got it, right? So if I do like this, hopefully it will work. So now you see these are the genes which is in chromosome 1 and these two genes are in chromosome 11. So like that you can give multiple rules here. Okay, so next is little bit more advanced in the sense. So here what I am doing, we can have multiple actions as well. So, okay, so now you see here awk, and here I am giving a conditions first. So rule number 1, so this is the rule number 1, that means we will have a test and we'll have action block. The test is equal to $1 equal to chromosome 1, then the action block is equal to this curly bracket to this curly bracket. And here we have multiple actions, like I want to write two statement. So you can have multiple action block, but very important thing, like this curly bracket should be in the same line as the test. So otherwise it will not know, right? Which, so it's a pairing between the test and this thing. So this is the test I am doing, $1 equal to this thing, and on the same line I started the first curly bracket. Then I can have any number of actions I can write statement, and then I end that action block. So this is the rule number 1 is finished over here. Then the second rule I start, $1 equal to this thing, and this is same, I am writing the action in the same line as well. Okay, but if you do not want to write each action on a separate line, you can if you want to write them in one line, so you have to just give the them in the colon, semicolon separator. Okay, so this way you can have multiple rules and multiple actions, sorry, multiple actions as well. So let's write this, try this, and this is you know okay, sorry. So now you see this is for every line it checked. Okay, first condition is checked and it is printing the two statement, and then the second line record passed the test and it is again printing the two statement like that. Okay, so now you see this is not a one liner, but still conceptually that is one liner. To So instead of this, right, we can save this in a script. So basically the entire rules whatever you wrote in between the single quote, right, so just copy this part and put it in a file test.awk. Okay, so let me do that, and we can use that script to, instead of in terminal. Okay, so this is very useful when we will be using uh, more complex kind of thing. So let's say I'm uh, creating a script, and copy paste problem. Otherwise, best is use nano. Okay, so I'm save this file. Now you see this is the my script. Basically, you do not have to write awk the first part and the last part. Okay, and now we just simply have to give what awk minus f. This is my script and this is my input file. So very simply I can run that entire test. Okay, and that's all I think. Or last thing I forgot to we can cover is like minus f parameter. By default, as I said, instead of fs parameter, you can simply use hyphen f to specify now or the input field separator as tab or comma or colon, like that. Suppose let's say you are passing a tab separated file, you can use slash t. If it is a CSV, you can specify hyphen f equal to comma, like that. So that's all. I will just summarize what all things we saw. Like we saw, like awk will take your data, it will apply some rules, and then it will give us the out, and it will split each into different records into fields, and the field will be stored in $1, 2, 3, like that. $0 will be stored the entire record, and nf will be the number of field. And this is the syntax. You put single quote text action, test action, and there is no test, means by default all record will pass, and default action is printing. Okay, and we saw some examples, and we saw how to print column, and then a test example like arranging columns, then applying the different tests. So we can use equal to multiple conditions and or, like that, and we can use regular expression as well. And then we saw the concept of nr equal to number of record, number of field, and using that we can print the line number given which field is matching, like that we can check. And also we can scheme slice the data from given range of lines. Then we talked about the begin block, end block. Begin will execute, then all the rules will apply, and end block will be executed only once. So this example like adding a header in a file we saw. And then we talked about creating a variable, and no need to give dollar because variable name, and no need to give quote as well. And we saw an example calculating average of a column. Okay, then yeah, then we explored two variable ORS and OFS, right? And like how you can change the output format. And yeah, so then we talked about multiple rules can be applied, and within each rule we can have multi-line multiple actions as well. Okay, so that's all about basic idea about awk. And in the next videos I will try to dig little bit, give some more examples. We can just practical examples. I'll try to collect a few, and then we will move into some advanced concept like using if block, for loop, and array, and so many other very like running system commands and other things that we can see. But the foundation what I gave, that is very useful, and using that you can read more about this from other places over internet as well. Okay, I hope this video was useful to you, and if yes, please support my channel. And yeah, thank you, bye, see you in the next video. Bye bye.